it's Ken Gagne with YouTube channel Gamebits with this week's IndieSider, where I play indie games and then interview the developer. This week I'm playing Beholder, an upcoming Steam game being played here on the Mac. You can see that this is the beta version. This is developed by Warm Lamp Games and published by Alawar Entertainment, both of whom are in Siberia, Russia, which is an important context with which to help you understand this game. I'm going to start a new game here and skip some of the tutorial, but you will see some of the opening text. Dear Carl Stein, we are happy to announce that you've been appointed the landlord of a Class D apartment block. We must obey
Dear
all
Carl
orders.
Stein, we are happy to announce you've been appointed a landlord of the Class D apartment block on Krushwitz 6. You must arrive there immediately and start working. You and your family are given an apartment on the first floor. The experimental medicine you've been injected with during the medical checkout suppresses your need for sleep. Thus, you will be able to spend more time serving your motherland.
I love the motherland. The wheels on the bus go round and round. So this is a fictional country, it seems, but it doesn't take a huge leap of the imagination to picture this as being Russia or Germany, as seen in such movies as The Lives of Others. This is a dark, decision-driven game in the vein of, say, Papers, Please, or perhaps even this War of Mine, which also had a somewhat monochromatic appearance to it as well. So here's the former landlord on his way out, and here I am to take his old job and move my whole family into this apartment. Yay!
Welcome to the elite official rank. Ministry of Allocation.
So here we are, this is me, these are some NPCs I can speak with. I can move around the apartment a little bit to see what else is going on here. Let me skip some of the tutorial stuff and get you to the meat of the game. Alright, let's try it from here. So I can, using my mouse, drag the screen over. It took me actually a while to figure that out. You can't just click somewhere because he'll just go there. But if you drag, then you can click here and examine that. And inside this desk filled with monitors, what do I find but 2 security cameras? I will take those, thank you very much. I'll take both of them, actually. And let me speak again with my all-supreme master. And now I'm supposed to install them in the dining hall. And I can see that one goes here. Great. And another one goes over here. And what this does is allows me to see in this room by pulling back on the camera. Not these cameras I just installed, the game camera. So he just gave me some money, which is great. He basically told me what to do. Alright. And now it's saying, let's go talk. No, actually, let's go answer the phone. Because since I am awake 24 hours a day, I need to be available to answer the phone at any time and receive new directives. I'm ready for a task. I need to establish surveillance in apartment number 2. Jacob Menashek lives there. I can always buy the cameras I need at the state shop. Only enter the apartment when they're not home and be careful. So let's go shopping. I have $300, so I can buy 2 of these. No, I'm going to buy these. Oh, I don't have that much money. I had $100. I always mistake these two. My bad. And now I can pull back and see the entire apartment. So these areas that are dark have people in them, and I can't look at them, I can't see inside until I establish a camera. So let's go talk to some folks. I'm going to start just by clicking here, and my guy runs over. If it takes too long, I can click this little speed up button. That's handy for passing time. But sometimes I miss things. What do you want from the archivist? I want to introduce myself because I'm new here. My name is Carl. I'm the new manager of the building. Mark Rennick is a respected archivist. That's this person's name. I have to live in this disgusting apartment. I'm so glad you're proud of the place I now manage for you. I will do everything to put this place in order. And his wife is Rosa. She loves baking buns and cakes. So what I'm doing is establishing a dossier on all these people. So that was Mark Rennick. I just met the respected employee of the archive. That's important to know. He lives in apartment number 3. And his wife, Rosa, likes to bake. This is something we learned about her. And information is power. The more things we know about a person, the more we can do with that information. Later on, we can blackmail them. We can send profiles to the state. Here's a list of government directives. Every day, something new is outlawed. And if I encounter any tenants disobeying these directives, I can write them up and get a reward. My current task, however, my primary objective is to establish surveillance on apartment number 2. Who's this person? Let's get to know them. My name is Klaus Schimmer. He's in apartment number 1. So he used to own this house. This entire place that everybody lives used to be this guy's. And you can see that I can see in the dining hall, I can see what's going on down there, but I can't see over here. So he likes to play chess. That's something I just learned about him, and I earned state reputation that I can use to buy stuff later. Speaking of which, there's also this guy right here, sort of a black market dealer. He'll sell me some other things. He'll trade. So let's see, we have whiskey, we have screwdrivers, we have cardigans, lots of interesting things. There's also a mailbox here where we'll be getting some mail later in the game. Or right now. So there we go. We can also search things like the plant. Maybe there's something in the plant. There is, in fact, there is some unused film. I don't know why, but now I have it. So here is the door of the apartment we're supposed to be spying on. It looks like there's nobody in there at the moment. This is my son right here. Yes, father. Talk about work. He doesn't like my new job. Well, that's too bad for you. Do I not put food on your table? He wants to go to university. But do you have the books that you need? We'll find out later. Alright, so nobody is home, and I have the master key, so I'm going to go ahead and go in, and I'm going to install a camera right there. Neat thing is that if the tenant comes home while I'm in his apartment, I don't seem to get in trouble. It's pretty nice. But since we are here, we're going to search and learn some more things about him. Now, I can't take this because he'll know that I was there, and it makes me a thief. But I can say that this guy can be dangerous. This is something I now know about him. So that goes in my dossier, my profile about him. Remember, knowledge is power. Let's take a look in here as well. Nothing in the bookcase. Anything under the bed? Or in the mattress? Nope. Alright, anything in this little cabinet here? No. Now, not only can I talk to everybody who lives here, the tenants, but that includes my family. My son, you saw me talking to him, likes to gamble. And my, whoops, time to go. And he didn't seem to notice that I was coming and going. So I didn't get to examine the chair right there. But let's see what we can spot now that we can see this little triangle of space. Let's speed it up. Oh, look at that. He's making drugs. I think I just click on it, and that becomes part of my dossier. Apparently not. Oh, now he's going to make a phone call. Maybe I should at least introduce myself. Hi. Oh, no, no, come back. What do you want? Hi, I'm me. Who gives a damn about the new manager? Well, we can just have this same dialogue all day. Okay. And I'm trying to end the dialogue. That was rather unsatisfying. Oh, the phone. Gotta go answer the phone. Any time of day that it rings, I have to be there. Hurry. Your first task was a success. You are rewarded. $500 and 50 reputation points. Alright. Now it says he's violating state directives. Spy on him using the surveillance camera. When a camera detects a tenant doing something illegal, the action icon changes color. Click on the icon to add the evidence to the dossier. Okay, so that's... So I was doing it right, I was just doing it at the wrong time. So now I just have to wait for this to happen again. I can just speed that up. I must... Oh, here he comes. He had left the apartment, he just came home. I saw that. But he's not making drugs yet. There he goes. Click on that. Ah! Now I have evidence. Also, the production of drugs is prohibited. So that's new. This is, as of September 2nd, Directive number 6040. So let's go back down here and see if we can do something with that information. I'm going to write a report. So, Jacob Manischek in apartment 2 is violating Directive 640 from September 2nd. And this is the evidence. Send. The police went to the apartment to inspect it. And I'm going to go up there and watch and wait. Here they come. Here come the cops. Can I talk to them? No, probably don't want to. Uh-oh. And he's all like, what are you doing here? How would you know I did anything wrong? Now, obviously, this guy was a jerk. He was mean to me, and he was making drugs, which, whether or not the state says so, is probably a bad thing. But there are other people here who are not doing such bad things and are not such bad people, and I will have to make decisions about how to respond to their crimes. Do I turn them in, or do I try to help them escape and get away? Oh, she's not happy. So that's my list of what's prohibited. There are my directives. And now apartment 2 is open. Let's do a quick check-in with the fam. I haven't done anything yet. Oh, the police marched a handcuffed person right by me. It scared me. Who was that, Carl? Oh, that was... Oh, when we came in, not the person I just got arrested. My son seems to be asleep back there. I examine the bed. Make sure he is, in fact, in it. Oh, hey. I'm going to take that blouse, why not, and a tenant's personal diary. And what's with my kiddo here? What's going on with you? I can't play with you now. And let's talk with Patrick, our son. Okay, this conversation we already had. And we already had that conversation. And we had that conversation. Oh, good. Thank you for playing with Martha. Okay. So that roughly is Beholder. I'm going to continue playing. I'm going to renovate this apartment and get some new tenants to move in. And I'm going to get to know these people in apartment number 1 and install some cameras in their apartment. I don't know how I feel about that. But I'm also going to be speaking with the developers who are in Siberia. In fact, I'm doing something a little bit different for this week's IndieSider. I'm going to be speaking with one of the publishers, not the developer. They have worked together for years, although this game is the first from Warm Lamp Games. That is a relationship that has been established in previous incarnations. We're going to be learning about that and the correlation between the game being developed in Siberia and being set in a totalitarian state. So, stay tuned for that interview. If you want to listen to just the audio version, you can find it at IndieSider.net/beholder. Thanks for listening. Joining me today is Evgeny Kapustin, the head of midcore marketing at Alawar Entertainment. Hello.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Thank you for finding time for me. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts in the United States. You are in Novosibirsk in Siberia, Russia. We are 11 hours apart. I really appreciate you bridging that gap and taking the time to talk to me.
Well, it's actually 9 a.m. here, so anyway, I'm up and ready for the work.
Well, what a great way to start the day then.
Definitely.
So as I mentioned, you are with Alawar Entertainment, which is actually the publisher of Beholder, which was developed by Warm Lamp Games. I usually do interview the developers on this podcast. So what is the relationship between Alawar Entertainment and Warm Lamp Games?
That's a great question, a very interesting one. Yep, as you mentioned, Alawar is a game publisher, and we publish casual games for PC, mobile platforms, and I think some players are familiar with our Match 3 games, and some played our time management games from Fun Frenzy series, and maybe some have come across our hidden object games. As for Warm Lamp Games, well, officially it is a recently created game development studio, which was founded in 2015, last year. But in fact, these are the people from Alawar Stargaze. It's our internal game developing studio that was founded in 2004. So this is a team of people that we've been working with for several years, and they developed games for PC and mobile that we as Alawar published. So they do have a great expertise, and they are very skilled in developing games. They are based in Barnaul. This is a city near to Novosibirsk, so we are pretty much close. And initially, Warm Lamp Games consisted of 12 people, artists, developers, and why was a new studio created? It was an experiment. For Alawar, it was an indie experiment, and by this I mean that we, as a big publisher, we always wanted to know what it feels like to be an indie developer, especially when this indie stream, this indie community became more and more popular. So those people who were initially gathered under the name of Warm Lamp Games, they were put there as an indie studio. So not in terms of some development expertise, they still know what to do. They have experience in developing games. They're not university students or some enthusiasts who just have a background of a player but not a background of a developer. But from other points of view, they really were indie. Well, they had a very limited budget, and on the other hand, they had unlimited opportunities. So they could just sit and develop a game of their dream or something like this. We, Alawar, were always there. We were watching them closely, but we tried not to interfere. So we just were looking at the process. Well, maybe a couple of times we gave us a very slight piece of advice, but all in all, this studio was an independent one, and we were just very curious of what is going to happen, what we will have as a result of all this development and this indie experiment. That is what actually Warm Lump Games is all about.
Excellent. Thank you for that background. That explains a lot. I'm also looking at the website for Alawar, that being company.alawar.com, and it mentions that your studio seems to focus on publishing casual games. Would you describe Beholder as a casual game?
Well, definitely not. We do publish casual games, and we have a huge portfolio of casual games, but Beholder is another experiment that we try to make. It is not a casual game, neither it is a hardcore title. It's somewhere in between. It's kind of a mid-core game that you should pay attention to. It's not a kind of a mobile game that you have a couple of minutes for a game session and then you're over and you just can go on with your other than whatever you were doing before. But it's not that very complicated game where you have to put a lot of effort to just start the game and go through the tutorial part and to find out what to do next. So it's a kind of a mid-core project, and I would say that we haven't got anything like this in our portfolio so far. So this is a game that differs greatly from any other project that Alawar has already published.
And it differs from a lot of other games that are also like this in that it is being developed in a part of the world where we can see where the game's inspiration comes from. I mean, there have been games about totalitarian states, but as far as I know, they were usually developed in Western Europe or in the United States. The correlation between the nature of Beholder and it being developed by Russia doesn't seem like a coincidence. How much of this game was inspired by the country in which it's being developed?
Let's be honest from the beginning. This game is not about Russia. Not about Russia at all. Because what this game is all about is about moral choices that we put in front of a player. And the choice of the setting, the reason why we decided to pick a totalitarian state as a place where all the things happen is because we would like to make the setting as clear as possible. And the really tricky thing and the very interesting thing for us in this case is that a lot of people who tried our beta version, a lot of people who tried our demo version, a lot of people who reviewed our game on YouTube channels or in some media, they always see the very close, very similar setting to Russia. A lot of people see the similarity between Beholder setting and some Eastern Europe or Western Europe countries, Hungary or even Germany. Well, maybe not contemporary Germany, but maybe Germany of maybe several years ago. But the point is that we put a player into the situation when where they have to decide and make really complicated choices. And we want a player to be focused on the choices and on the stories that our characters tell. And that is why we try to choose the setting that would describe itself. And in this case, if we use some kind of a fairy tale kingdom, we would still have to explain the rules to a player, because every kingdom has its own rules. Some may even deny the basic laws of physics or something like this. If we tried some space settings, sci-fi settings, again, there would be a necessity of telling the story of how mankind had come up to this very stage of development and what rules are there and how we should behave. If we're speaking about a totalitarian state, it is more or less clear what is going to happen, because we all know from the history of mankind, from the history of different countries, and from the contemporary state of world. Some see Russia as a totalitarian state, some see Korea as a totalitarian state. So these are the things that are basically universal. And when you say a person that you're going to live in a totalitarian state, they initially understand that there are going to be rules, oppressive laws, something will be forbidden, something will be prohibited. There will be a lot of boundaries, and there will be very few freedom. So this setting was the most universal one, and would relieve us from the necessity to describe to a player what is going to happen around. But this thing that a lot of people see Beholder as actually a game that is happening in Russia, and see this state as a Russian state is a pretty much interesting thing for us.
I think what you're encountering is a lot of stereotypes and popular culture myths about what Russia and Siberia are. Probably most people who are playing your game, at least among my colleagues here in the United States, have never been to Russia and may not have even met anybody who's been to Russia. So they have to just assume that they know what Russia is actually like by playing this game, even if they're completely wrong.
Well, there is another thing. The general setting of a totalitarian state may refer to Russia, especially those people who have never been here before. They may see the clear resemblance of Russia here. But on the other hand, Carl, the main character of our game, he actually spies on other people, the people living in a house, by taping them, by setting up cameras, by listening to their talks through bugs, or just hearing them when he hides somewhere. I think that these very features are not only applied to Russia, because we all know about different scandals with Edward Snowden. We all know about WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. We all heard about the scandals with German authorities who, well, as some say, were wiretapped by the United States. So the means of getting the information are far from just, Russian style. So these are the means of getting the information that you need and that you require for accomplishing your goals are pretty much universal. So that maybe that's why we actually got some feedback from our players who tested our beta version. A lot of them told us that this game is about Hungary, this game is about Germany. Some players even said that this game is about United States. So it really depends on who's playing, and in this case, the name of the game, Beholder, is actually resembles that very proverb that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But again, the country that we are playing in is also in the eye of the beholder, which is actually in the eye of a player who plays our game.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that interpretation. I like that. And it definitely gives me something to think about, because you said how some people see this game as being in the United States. I just saw the movie Snowden about Edward Snowden, who is, of course, now living in Russia. And the amount of wiretapping and surveillance that's being done in my country, the United States, by our own government on its own citizens is appalling. And so you're right. Instead of projecting this game as taking place in some far off or even fictional country, we should probably consider what it's saying about where we are living, where the player is living.
Well, this is actually the one of the things that we like about our game, because it doesn't give you a specific answer. And it's not only about the gameplay or the quests that you as a player should go through. It's also about the setting, because when you first see the game, you may think, oh yeah, this is the Russia, definitely. What any other country can be there? But as you try to think it all over, you understand that no, there is no specific answer to this question, and this uncertainty, this final decision that will lead to a end user, to a specific player who plays the game, this is really the feature that we like. So I think that if you show this game to 10 different people, you might get 10 different countries.
Yeah, some of the other things I was reminded of as I was playing this game were the game Papers, Please, which I think is even mentioned in Beholder, and also the movie The Lives of Others, which is set in Germany, I think Eastern Germany. Were there other games or movies that inspired the creation of Beholder? We talked about the countries it may be representing, but are there any particular games or movies that were inspirational?
I think that we should talk about books in the first place, because it's definitely George Orwell with his famous 1984. And this was actually the main inspiration for the game. If we're speaking about some references in games, yes, a lot of our players see the similarity between Beholder and Papers, Please. Then maybe some kind of similarity with This War of Mine. But in general, I think that, by the way, interesting thing about the movie The Lives of Others, because this movie has been released in 2006, as far as I remember, and it's comparatively, it's not new. It's over 10 years. But we found out about this film this spring. So when all the major quests and all the major characters have already been shaped, and there were only details that we were working on, and we were very excited and surprised to see how the general atmosphere of this film is similar to the atmosphere of our game, and we even saw small specific details in the background that we actually have in common. So I think it's not about the games or movies that inspire us, but it's all about the general idea of a person who's given a power, and the way this person uses the powers that they have. And when we're speaking about this, a lot of different moral questions arise, and you gotta decide what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, and all these questions that we actually try to ask ourselves and the player in this game. These are pretty much universal questions that appear in different movies, different books, different games. So there will be similar games because of the universal nature of the problems that we are trying to speak about in our title.
You're right, there are a lot of games that are bringing up these difficult issues, not just games but other media. You mentioned This War of Mine, which was developed in Poland. Those developers have also been on my podcast here. Just like This War of Mine, Beholder requires that the player make difficult decisions, which isn't always a fun thing to do, to be put in that situation where you have to make a choice between whose life you save or who is more important. And if that is something that makes a player uncomfortable, I'm wondering, in your opinion, why do players play games that make them uncomfortable if games are supposed to be fun?
First of all, I think that the worst thing that a game can do to a player is to leave them indifferent. If you've played a game and you felt nothing, you have no emotions whatsoever, this is really a bad game. On the other hand, if we try to compare the game industry to other media, for instance, with cinema or movies, There are a lot of movies, comedies that you will just watch one time, spend a good evening, and then forget about them. Maybe some action films with the great effects and visuals and stunning picture, but again with not that let's say depth in the scenario, in the idea. And on the other hand, there are some films that you may feel uncomfortable while watching them, but still after you finish the film, you still have questions in your head, and you keep thinking about them, keep thinking about what you've seen, what you would do if you were the hero of this movie. And maybe later you will even decide to watch this film once again. So I think that our game is not a game that you will just pick and try to spend some time on when you have nothing to do. Our game is a game about choice, and we understand that it sometimes may not be that fun, but it will definitely won't leave you indifferent. You will feel something. You will feel a great emotion. Yes, sometimes this emotion may not be that comfortable and enjoyable and fun. But we, in this very specific game, we wanted this emotion to appear. So in general, if we speak about this project as a whole thing, there is not that much fun there in general. But anyway, while you're playing this game, as you're going through one quest to another, you will still have a chance to complete this game. And I just don't want to spoil some quests, and I'm trying to put it as as less specific as possible. Well, anyway, by finishing this game, you may win it. There is a chance and there is a specific scenario where you can get out from this game as a winner. But anyway, the most important part for us is to let a player with feelings and with thoughts after a player finishes this game. Thoughts about what is good or what is bad, and how the player feels when they decide to either report on some character or to save them, what kind of a behavior they accepted, and what kind of behavior makes them feel uncomfortable or even bad about themselves. That's in general. If we're talking about specific parts of the game, we try to make it as fun as possible, because even in a totalitarian state, there always a room and space for some good joke. That's why we do have a mention of the papers, please, as you mentioned before. We also have different kinds of Easter eggs there. We have some other references to some other games, not just a reference, but a kind of a joke or maybe humorous situation that will make a player smile. But that's just small jokes that will make player feel a bit relieved before they go on with their very difficult moral choices.
I'm glad to hear there is a state in which the player can win. I know that there are multiple endings, but I never really thought that any one of those many endings might be a winning state, because the game is all about sacrifice, and in the end of the game, I can't imagine that you're going to escape the totalitarian state. One person can only make so much change. And so I know that you can't go into spoilers, but I want to keep playing the game and figure out what it looks like to win at Beholder. Not just finish the game, but actually win it.
Mm-hmm. You said a great thing, that this game is about sacrifice. And this is the part where we get really subjective, because for some people, sacrifice is a win. For other people, sacrifice is actually a lose. So in this case, we do not offer a player some kind of a moral compass that we want them to follow. we give the player a certain set of actions that are going to happen, and we may give a player some ideas on how the things are going to develop, how the story is going to unfold. When we're trying to make hints on what's going to happen after this or that choice, we try to be as logical as possible. So there are several storylines that are pretty much logical, and when these storylines combine, and when you find yourself at some point where different stories cross and you have to make a decision, you may see the consequences very clearly because they are logical. But what we cannot see, and the player cannot see until players get to this very point, is what feelings they will gonna experience at the moment of choosing, at the moment of making a decision. So for us as developers and for us as players who actually played this game, even we cannot say what it is to win a beholder, because every person has its own moral compass, and for every person, winning as a thing that doesn't strictly connect it to surviving this is not a universal thing. For every person, this thing is different. So we believe that a lot of players who may actually fail to escape the state, they will still have a feeling of winning the game, and vice versa. So there is a part where you can actually survive. Your character can survive, but there are a lot of different endings where this may not happen, but you will still be feeling as a winner. And that is actually what we would like our players to try, because you may try to be both a good person, trying to save someone, trying to pressure the life of the people that surround you. On the other hand, you may choose the path of being the policeman of the state, to strictly follow directives, to pay no attention to what's going on with other people. And maybe while you're playing our game, you will drive to a conclusion that being a policeman is not that good, or maybe being a policeman is not that bad. So since we do not give a player any moral compass, we think that a lot of players who come across one and the same ending will feel both winners and losers.
Fascinating. I'm looking forward to seeing that for myself. I'd like to talk a little bit about the development of the game leading up to its launch. The first time I became aware of Beholder was when it went on Kickstarter in the spring of 2016, just a few months ago, and that campaign did not meet its goal. Not every Kickstarter does. About 2/3 of all Kickstarters don't meet their goal. Why do you think Beholder did not meet its goal? Did it not resonate with players, or did something else go wrong?
Well, first of all, why did we start this campaign on Kickstarter? Again, when we're speaking about warm-up games as an experiment, as an indie studio that we created and let them into their own journey, this Kickstarter campaign seemed to be a logical thing to do for an indie development team. As for the results of the campaign, I think that it is very, very difficult to promote a game that is so controversial. So what you can show the players is definitely some art, which, well, in our opinion, is great. I hope you share this opinion. Then maybe some technical solutions, some, I don't know, high... some things that you can actually surprise players with. I don't know, VR technology or something like this. Our game was not about technical solutions. It wasn't about some multiplayer. We did not have multiplayer there. It is a single player game, which may be in great colors, in great, the graphic style is great, but the story of this game cannot be clearly put in just a few sentences in one game trailer. So I believe so. Maybe we failed to find the way to inform the players in a couple of sentences what exactly they are going to get. Because we did see a lot of interest to the game, but since the Kickstarter campaign failed, I think that we just failed to put the words right in order to get the players to understand what they're going to get. Because, well, frankly speaking, Beholder is a game, but it's not an entertainment. It's a game that requires your not only your time and attention, but always requires your, I don't know, some personal moral compass, which is not always an entertainment. Maybe that is the reason why we didn't manage to get this Kickstarter campaign success.
Oh, I can definitely see that. I can imagine that, having never run a Kickstarter campaign, but having backed many, that there is a certain level of appeal or even sexiness or flashiness that draws people to give their money. And it's not necessarily a game like Beholder, which does have a fantastic art style, but is more about the experience than it is the entertainment, as we were saying earlier.
Definitely.
I'm also curious about, I've talked about how the environment, the geography may or may not have inspired the game, but it certainly did have an impact on the game's development. When I talk to people here in the United States, they bring their games as they are still in development to events like the Penny Arcade Expo or PAX or to GDC or E3, and they get people to play the game before it comes out and give them feedback face to face. I'm not familiar with the gaming scene in Siberia. Are there opportunities to sit down with people and show them your game? Are there game conventions that Beholder went to before it came out?
Well, if we're speaking about the scene here in Siberia, well, actually, eastern part of Russia, as well as Eastern Europe in general, is a great source of developers and IT specialists, and a lot of work in different mobile and PC games. I would say both small casual projects and huge AAA titles is outsourced in here. So there are a lot of IT companies in Novosibirsk, and they develop software and outsource, and there are a lot of talented developers and IT specialists. But well, we do have several indie game developing studios, but there are no say huge events that are game events that are happening here in Novosibirsk. So what we can do is just to make some sort of a small meeting with people that we know to show game to these people. But if we compare that to some events like PAX E3 or something like this, is definitely not the same scale. So we actually visited Gamescom in Cologne this August and showed the game to players, and we actually received a highly positive feedback. And well, I think that it is always very good to participate in different events, especially international events, because there is a great opportunity for both team and the title that team is presenting. So we're definitely going to participate in some events. I'm not sure whether we are going to do this this year, because we are getting ready to release Beholder, and I think we will have a lot of work for the first several weeks after the release, but I think that we will definitely show this game at some events in 2017.
And when is the game coming out? Right now it's not on Steam under early access, instead it's available as a demo. When do we expect to see the full game come out?
Well, it's gonna happen this fall. I can say that it's gonna happen this November, and I hope that this is gonna happen early in this November.
The Kickstarter said that the game is originally coming out for Steam. I've been playing it on my Mac, but that later it will be released on other platforms like iOS, Android, and consoles, which I presume means PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Are we still going to be seeing those other releases happen sometime soon?
We will definitely release the game on both mobile platforms and consoles. It is still a chance, a possibility that we will be able to release the mobile versions of this game by the end of 2016. But there is a slight chance that we may postpone the release because we may have some feedback that may affect the development process after the release of Beholder on Steam. But anyway, we have a great team of developers who are very experienced in porting games to mobile and consoles, so we will definitely see the mobile versions of this game.
Excellent. I think the interface for the game would work well on mobile. I think it would translate well to a tablet. I've been playing it on the Mac, and it took me a little bit of getting used to, but once I got the hang of it, it was very easy to scroll around the level, zoom in on just what I needed to see, and make things happen very quickly. It's a user interface that works very well for this kind of game.
Great to hear that.
So we've talked so much about the context and the substance and the meaning of the game. I'm sure we could talk for hours more about other aspects of the game and the art style, which we barely scratched the surface of, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. If there was any one other thing about Beholder you would want to talk about that I didn't bring up, what would that be?
I think that there is one thing that we may talk about is this totalitarian thing that actually describes in its name that something is going to be prohibited. So when we're talking about a totalitarian state, it's always a lack of freedom, a lack of privacy, a lack of choices or whatsoever. But it is not that depressing because in our demo version, the players come across different things that are prohibited. But if we just say it is prohibited, every person will try to think of something that violates their freedom. But if we see this in the game, you can come across three things that are prohibited, at least at the very beginning of demo version. Apples are prohibited, and this sounds like something really stupid and really, well, what? Apples? What's wrong with apples? Then you come across the thing that a certain type of literature and certain type of books are also prohibited, and this you will definitely consider as a state trying to control you, control the way you think, control the way you see things, control the things you read, control your thoughts. And the third thing is that drugs are also prohibited. And this thing sounds like not that very totalitarian. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if something is prohibited, it may not be good or bad. It all depends on what it is that is prohibited. And our game is all about this. We state that something is there, but you cannot actually understand what it is, and you cannot develop a, well, not correct, but relevant emotional experience and relevant opinion until you got there and see what there is. So it's I would say we've got a lot of double meanings.
I guess so. It's a very thoughtful and substantial game, and one that will ideally leave players thinking for quite some time.
Hope it will.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we've covered so much ground. Could you please remind our listeners where to find Beholder online?
You can find it on Steam. It is available as a demo version. You can just type Beholder in the search field and you'll find the game. We can also be found on the web. There is a site, beholdergame.com. We also have the communities on Twitter and Facebook and some regional social media. For example, in Russia there is a Kontakte. But anyway, these are the main points of entrance.
Great, and there will be links to all those in the show notes found at IndieSider.net/beholder. Evgeny Kapustin of Alawar Entertainment, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.